Hey guys, how's it going? It is what is it, Tuesday or Wednesday? I can't even know what day of the week it is. All I know is getting close to damn Christmas. Tuesday, December 22nd, 2020. And just another little blog for the fun of it. Um well, that was kind of weird. And of course the streaming's still horrible down here. I swear I'm gonna have to. It's kind of weird because I think it's the what do you call it? The modem upstairs. But yeah, I am in the basement, but I actually rented. Anyways, don't tell anybody that. So, anyways, nothing else to report. I did a stream last night where I was just freaking tired, and I got invaded by Lord of the Flies. So I expect to get invaded again tonight. We'll see how that goes, but I've upset a bunch of children. So I think they've produced like 7 or 8 videos on me. I don't think I've mentioned too much about them, but anyways. What else is going on? Not too much. Got another flight last night, or this morning, I should say, not last night. Haven't the wind's been up and down, like just I had that little calm area, and it just with the Mavic, if you're going, or the Mavic Mini, I should say, goes about 29 kilometers an hour. That's about it. And then after that, anyways, enough talk about the Mavic. And Christmas is coming. Yes, doesn't seem like it, but the snow's coming. I'm sure it'll be back before you know it. At least here in southern Ontario. Um, I titled this tonight, "Are We Living in 1984?" And the reason this was something that was on my mind for a while, actually. Now, be prepared. I may touch into some interesting subjects that may offend you, depending upon your beliefs. A lot of times, your politics. Um, Let me just do full disclaimer first of all. Okay, politics go. I mean, you're not supposed to talk about it. It's a taboo subject. It's like religion. Yeah, you're not supposed to talk about it. Um, I don't mind talking about it because I can tell you right now, I know people who, let's say, our premier in Ontario, Doug Ford. Now, I voted for him, and personally, I'm not too pleased with him. Yet, I know some friends who are more liberal feel the same way, that they're not too pleased because they extended they waited an extra 2 days before they did the lockdown. So I mean, yeah, politics, it's a doggy dog world. You can't please anybody, but that's just the way it is. So you're always trying to please somebody. So the good politicians are trying to please everybody. Problem is, if you try to please everybody and you don't stick to your values, then you just piss everybody off. So yeah, politics gets often confused with the whole left right paradigm, you against them, all this other garbage. I've voted for so many different parties, and though I would say I'm more conservative than liberal, I am certainly uh, have values in me. Uh, to me, it's a 3D world. It's not black or white. There's a lot of shades of different things. And just because I think a certain way doesn't mean I'm right and you're wrong, or you're right and I'm wrong. That's just the way it is. Um, People can agree to disagree and still get along. I get along with everybody who I work with. I have my friends who think the way I do, and I know other people who don't, and it's okay. Um, but One thing, when I say, are we living in 1984? For those of you that are not familiar with 1984, 1984, in oddly enough 1948, if you want to reverse those numbers, was written by George Orwell. Now, I knew about George Orwell, uh, which is often compared to that we're heading for a quote unquote Orwellian nightmare scenario. Um, that it's a phrase that's often used. Sometimes it's used by a quote unquote conspiracy theorist, or what's judged to as either conspiracy theorists, quote unquote right wing wingnuts, as I've seen that mentioned a few times. Uh, Anybody pretty much that goes against the status quo of the mainstream media. For those of you wondering, okay, well, what's the mainstream media have to do with all this either? Mainstream media is the voice of not necessarily the government, but it's the voice of the people who pay them, or who basically pay their bills to, as to what to say, what to report on. Uh, there was before everything was so decisive and things were, about the five W's: who, what, where, when, why. It's now become more about entertainment, and it's about pushing narratives as it is asking the tough questions. We also are now in a time where the information age is so crucial to the information that's being spread, and it's also manipulated. That I've seen firsthand of this. A lot of things are manipulated out there, where if you're against a narrative, or if you think a certain way about a certain subject, suddenly you have to usually rely on the media reports, and the media reports just rely to write. And a lot of times they write a lot of stuff that's not very factual, that can be easily proven wrong. It never gets reported because people for the they're on their phones, their social media. They got their phones constantly uh, sharing information just like that all over the place. And it doesn't take much for word to get out if a certain narrative wants to be pushed. So, what does that have to do with anything? So, I'm just checking my little stream there, going with the little bubbly thing. Supposedly, I'm running. Let me just check out something here. That's not the one I want. Let's go somewhere else here. Okay. I just want to make sure I am up and running still, which apparently I am. Anyways, so yeah, we're fine. Okay, just wanted to make sure because sometimes who knows with this internet. So what? As far as the whole 1984 analogy goes, the information that is out there, or the narratives that are out there. So if I was to post something on YouTube, let's say, and I talk about COVID-19, or if let's say, I talk about some kind of conspiracy, or what's considered a conspiracy, or something, let's just say I talk about Donald Trump. and I say, something along the lines, well, the election was stolen and all this other stuff, right? And I won't get into all that. I have my own theories of all of that. But a lot of times, just what I hear could be a narrative in itself. You never know. And a lot of times, I think they want to divide you. They want you to be on one side. They want somebody else to be on another side. They just want chaos, organized chaos. Because when this whole COVID thing happened, it 11 when that started coming out, it just reminded me 9/11 was a time where a lot changed in the laws, and for the sake of security, or for the sake of the war on terror, we lost a lot of our rights and freedoms. A lot of things happened at the borders. To travel, there it used to be much easier to travel, and suddenly everything was clamped down, and there was more freedoms that were suppressed. So when you have that happening, so you have these freedoms that are suppressed. They don't they you know these are supposed to be temporary measures. A lot of times they always say it's temporary measures. So is the goods and service tax in Canada supposed to be a temporary measure. It's never a temporary measure. Once they take away something, you never get it back unless there's a revolution. That's the only way you're getting it back. um, so that's what this whole COVID thing started reminding me of. I was very scared at first, because I was like, you know, like what's going on here? Like, I mean, is this the plague? And they precondition you. They put all these movies out about different viruses, and I don't know what else. I don't watch too many movies, but I know the movies are out there. Who I can't think of one. There's one popular one. Don't mind me. I don't know all the latest movies, but it's like they're preconditioning you to say, here it comes. Now it's in your memory. Here comes the epidemic, or the pandemic, I think is uh, maybe that was the name of the movie, Pandemic, actually, if I'm not mistaken. So when all of a sudden it comes along, you know, it supposedly came from bats and all this other crap. When it comes along, all of a sudden you're like, thing. You don't have any information. You only hear what's happening right now. So you're afraid to touch people. You don't know how fast this is spreading. And then you hear what the research, and then you start hearing question to the narrative. And not everything is about disputing the media and everything's a conspiracy. There are doctors who have been out there who have been vocal about it, who have been shut down. Um, but the same thing can be said about uh, censorship in the form of Twitter, for example. Silicon Valley, California, YouTube. There's a lot of censorship that goes on for conservatives, for example, so that they get dinged. This isn't factual. This is disputed. Blah blah blah. But yet their liberal friends, or socialist friends, I should say, get the softballs. So they get the free pass. They're treated with kid gloves. Everything else is okay. So you have the narrative. The narrative is basically how somebody or a group of people are trying to shape the world. And you're seeing this across a lot of countries in the West. You're not seeing it in all countries across the world. There's some places that are rebelling against that. But you're seeing it across most of the Western countries that is trying to rebel. Sorry, that's basically has this narrative that you don't know what's good enough for you. Government knows what's good for you. And you can't take care of yourself and you can't prevent this. You need government to help you. So, is this the flu? Absolutely not. Could it be more deadly than the flu? Possibly. Is it worse than the Spanish flu? No, not at all. So, when you compare some of the pandemics of the past, or even flu, other forms of other uh, causes of death that are out there, suddenly this one is where you're talking about mortality rates. Yeah, it's just ridiculous numbers. Where there's mainly a lot of comorbidities. There's all kinds of things that are causing this. Do I think people should take precautions? Absolutely. If this is legitimately as bad as it sounds, sure, take precautions. People should stop living their lives. And province of Ontario here in Canada on the 26th, Boxing Day here, day after Christmas, is going into, I believe, its second lockdown. I've been hearing that this is supposedly called the quote unquote third wave. You have different reports of hospitals. You have different interviews with different people within the hospitals. But hospitals this time of year are actually quite busy most times, anyways. So you add this to you add to the fact that there are people who haven't had elective surgeries for some time. There are a lot of people who had underlying conditions already that had to hold off certain surgeries because of COVID. And this is all coming around. Not to mention, you have a lot of testing, you have a lot of medications that can only be administered in a hospital. The average time out of a hospital for treatment with COVID is 5 days. That's a lot lower than what it once was. So, again, are we living in 1984? You'd have to watch the movie and understand the movie. I'll explain for those of you. I don't want to. There's not much to spoil, really. Basically, it is. Um, it was a novel that was, like I said, written in '48, and it was supposedly it was after World War III, I believe, and there was, it turned into three territories, and people were slowly integrated into a society of taking away their freedoms, taking away their humanity, totalitarianism. Say that real quick, and basically working for, as they say, Big Brother, and Big Brother's watching you, and uh, countless wars supposedly happening, although they weren't really happening. But you were told, war was peace, and all these other, war is peace, and uh, freedom is slavery. Interesting little things that don't make much sense. But in the end, it's all about control over society. And this is why 1984 gets brought up a lot, because what you're seeing less and less freedoms all the time. Yes, you're seeing technology and you're seeing all these but in the end, you're losing more and more freedoms each day. And the information, the freedom, not that we don't have freedom of speech, but we have a Charter of Rights here in Canada. So trying to actually get proper information, it's actually easy to get a lot of information. The problem is it's a monopoly on places like what I'm using right now, YouTube, which I use. I don't use Facebook. Um, I stopped using that a long time ago. But and I had my reasons, privacy for being one of them, and a few other things that were going on. But so, I use YouTube. I'll use Twitter, and that's just to get, I don't say anything too controversial most of the time. I try not to. Try to stay off of these little topics. But is everything becoming just like it was in 1984? The education system is dumbed down. I talked about this recently. I was mentioning about this Lord of the Flies thing. It kind of I'm not going to give it too much light. I was going to give it more light, and then I started thinking about it. I was just like, um, these kids were like creating like a bunch of videos called and all this other stuff. It was all after a Google search. They said this was like, I don't know what the heck they said, 8, 9, 10 months ago or something like that, or half a year ago. Uh, I mean, it happened in August. Was where this video rant came. It all had to do with comments on YouTube. Somebody was supposedly trying to help somebody out, and this was from a comment that was from 3 years ago, and he was asking why you posted it twice, and I said, and I originally posted a video 8 years ago. I'm like, well, why did I post it? But it's like posted it 8 years ago. I said, why are you asking? I says, is it that big of a deal? And he got all pussy, and he's like telling me to calm down and stuff like that. I'm like, what do you mean calm down? I'm not upset. I'm just curious what the big deal is. Oh, no data. Hey, suggestion. Just trying to read the bit rate on this. Uh, my life of live streams might be over. I gotta get him to reset the router or something upstairs. But so yeah. Anyways, I'm getting distracted off of that stuff. But when I say like the education system's being dumbed down, I remember when I went to school, and I remember people who were older than me telling me how much harder or how much tougher it was to learn or certain things. But for me, I felt it was still. And my son, he breezes through a lot of this stuff, but he knows a lot of people who have a tough time. And I can tell you, it's not as hard as it used to be. You think with more innovations and technologies and ways of learning, you think we would be progressing, instead we're degressing, because they're dumbing the kids down. And this online learning thing, nobody's learning right now. Nobody. It's I mean, it's like Playland right now. And everything has a person in the class, nobody fails. It just, I used to remember the fear of failing. In fact, I can tell you the I never failed until I was in my last year of college. I was it was kind of funny. I was thinking of this because Mike, a friend of mine, he contacted a YouTube video of mine a few weeks back or whatever, and I got the email today, and I was just like, oh wow. So I was talking about music or something like that in one of the videos, and Yeah, he was in. He actually made the screen. I don't know if he made this one. No, not this one. Sorry, he made the what will say thumbnails for a video that I put up earlier today. I actually changed it once he created it, and I mean it's a good idea. And I even changed the format of the date and everything like that. Just I guess it's helps the viewer being able to people to find it easier or whatever. So I'm like, okay, he suggested I should be changing the thumbnail for every live stream. A lot of times I go into a live stream, I don't know what the hell I want to talk about. I just want to shoot the shit, basically. But sometimes I'll start talking about one thing and then I'll go off on another tangent. So it's difficult sticking onto a subject. Times I just want to go out there and say whatever's on my mind and see where it leads. But yeah, so you got the education system that's dumbed down. You've got the media trying to portray what they're telling you what's happening when the experts and the people who know are actually saying no, this is happening, there's this study, and then they're told no, it's a lie. And whether there's questions about the votes in the states or questions about, you talk about Trudeau going off on the Great Reset and all this other crap that they're talking about. But these are all conspiracy theories, and yet I've seen the videos where he talks about it, and I've seen the videos for some of the staging things and the Agenda 2030 and all these other things that they're talking about. So a lot of these so-called that gets dismissed as conspiracy theories are actually things that, if you know where to look, information on a lot of this stuff. Now, does that make my idea right? Does that make me better than the experts? No. Does that make just because one expert differs from another one? The one they like using too is just stick with the science. Stick with the science. They like saying that all the time, but then when the science disrupts the narrative, suddenly they retrace that. They'll say, well, no, that's not correct, or they'll counter narrative it, and then boom, it'll be done. So when they say stick with the science, a lot of times they don't follow the science because there's a lot of people out there who are opposed to the narrative. Are scientists, doctors, but they get censored. They don't get to be on all these different news outlets and magazines and all this other stuff. They don't get their say. They're lucky if they get on YouTube, but if they get too viral, boom, they're gone. But there's other alternative media sites that are going up now. I mean, that's the good thing about it, is I think in the end, people they underestimate a lot of the, I would say, powers that be, basically the people into this multicultural one world government type thing. Uh, like they're totally against sovereignty for the most part. They want everybody to have free trade deals all over the place. They basically it's about resources and doing international business. So if you know it's all about the people who make the most money. Money is the big thing. It's government isn't about government. It's the people that are in government are the ones who are lobbying. They're the ones that are putting the money. They're the ones that are putting the advertising dollars into what you see on TV. If you follow the money, that's where it really comes from. It doesn't come from the goodness of their heart. It doesn't come from uh, you know, feeling really good about you. It's often has to do with following the money. And when you follow the money, and it has very little, a lot of times, to do with politics as well, left or right, or whatever side of the spectrum you think you're on, because they're often financed by both sides. So they hedge their bets, so they give to that to say, If you're going to get in and it more towards their political ideology, they'll want these things to come in that are on that side of the spectrum, but then on the other side, they'll want these things to come in so that when somebody does get chosen, elected, whatever you want to call it, then they're going to be bought and paid for because it's all about the lobbyist really. It's all about the ones who make a lot of money. You know how many people right now are making tons of money right now, and it's make a lot of money. Now I'm fortunate to have a job right now. um I've I'll be 5 years this year at my current company. I'm very, very fortunate. I know a lot of people who aren't working right now. Um, and I have seen the homeless come up. I've seen I've seen people with mental disorders walking the streets. I've seen I've seen all kinds of different signs that of happening. What's going on? People are losing their minds. They're losing they're going to be losing their houses. Some have already lost their houses and rent, even though they have these rent controls. They're only going to last for so long. Expire. And meanwhile, we're just spending all kinds of money. Government's just spending all kinds of money that it can never afford to pay back. It's I think it's worse in the United States as far as that goes, but who knows? And this is all supposedly to some great reset where everything is just going to be brought down. All the small businesses are going to supposedly be wiped out, even though I work for a small business. They're doing record profits right now. But I work in the food industry. So, and I'm not working in the service side of the food industry. I've been there before. We're into the machinery side of things. So, food processing, machinery. I'm a shipper receiver. I mean, we're dealing with logistics, all kinds of different things. So it's been really busy. So I haven't seen it this busy since I started, and that's because there's a lot of demand on some of these. Uh, because restaurants, you lose demand in one side, but on the other side, you gain demand in a lot of other different products, and a lot of times it cycles over to it. So make no mistake about it. Making money right now. Your governments are not um, taking pay cuts. They're fine. The only thing they're not getting is tax income. But that doesn't mean they can't borrow, and they can borrow quite a bit. There's really no limit to what they can borrow to a certain extent. It's all funny money anyways, really, when you think about real money. It's not real. It's like, it's just a bunch of numbers on a computer. It just inflates. It ends up inflating the value of the dollars, and that's your purchasing power becomes less and less. So, world. So, yeah, it's actually took me a lot less time than what I expected. So maybe I'll go on to something else, um, but it's a little scary. So I just say, if if you see political divide, first of all, don't trust the mass media, and if you're the one who likes reading the news, don't just shun somebody who might have a differing opinion or a different source. Um, Most of all, try to be nice to each other, is what I would suggest. And like I say that, like on the other side of the spectrum, and I said this more recently. We had I'll go back to it because it was kind of an interesting little development. Like I said, the Lord of the Flies attack, as I like to call it. So I don't know if I described this totally or not, but I might as well because I've talked about this whole 1984 thing, and now I'm not too sure what to talk about other than, and I'm not tired tonight, so that's always a good sign. So apparently, and this was how I didn't know too much about it. I go ahead and I comment on different things all the time. So when you comment, when you've been on YouTube as long as you have, and you have commented and commented, and you not only are you dealing with comments in your own videos, but you go on and you comment on other people's videos, what ends up happening is over time you end up getting a lot of email because people will reply to your comments sometimes years later. um, and in the case of me, I had a post about 8 years ago, some railroad in Ottawa. So I was like, there was a there was a reply. So that was 8 years ago. There was a reply 3 years ago. It was actually replied to twice. Of course, I would have got responded to back then. I would have got an email about it. I get emails about any time there's a reply to something I post. And this, well, ends up being, teenager, whatever. He replies, um, what was it? He replied back in August. Now they say it was about half a year ago or 9 months ago. Was actually, I heard somebody say that. Hey, it was like, no, it wasn't 9 months ago. It was back in August. He replied, which is, if my math is correct, that's about 4 months ago. And he replied to it. So I was like, okay. And the reply was back then was something along the lines of, the hell was that? What the hell did he say exactly? Trying to think. Something along the lines of, why did you post that twice? And it was to somebody who had posted that 3 years ago. So I kind of replied, basically saying, was it, necessary or whatever to ask 3 years ago? I don't know how I worded it. It doesn't really matter. I wasn't really mean about it. I wasn't being, um, I guess I was accused of, what was I accused of? Somehow they could read the way I was typing was that I was mad, and then he replied to me telling me to chill and all this other stuff. I'm like, it's like, and then I would talk about, well, I says I am chilled. I'm just trying to, do you a favor. Like people aren't going to like it. He was doing him a favor apparently, and I was saying to myself, when you go out there and you're posting a reply for something that's 3 years ago, it gets annoying to the people that originally post the message. If it was on current day, yeah, you get all kinds of replies. But that's fine. That's what you get for commenting on YouTube videos. What's on YouTube videos? So we went back and forth. He was a obviously because he was just, you know, just being stupid, really. So I was like, okay, fine. And I just basically said, I'm not gonna say any more about it. I did a Google search. I think it was a few days ago or something like that. And the reason why I did that was because I was working on my page. I did a Google search for Sean Merle, and then I clicked on the YouTube button. It's all come up in a lot of Google search, and I think it had something to do with the page that I was trying to find. And I was curious as to what was already out there. And lo and behold, there's somebody posting videos about me. I'm like, what the hell? So that's why I said. That's why I put a. I did a in one of the live streams. I said, do yourself a Google search. Well, because I had or whatever the hell it was. I can't remember if I had said something to him at that point. I think I did. I think I replied to one of his videos. I went on to one of his videos since he was posting his own videos and he was calling me immature and all this other stuff. I'm like, what the hell you done? Then he got he got a couple of his buddies. I mean, this guy's got hardly any subscribers and he's all over he was just all over the place. One of his buddies, you can barely understand what he's saying. Uh, I don't know. He talks. Maybe he's got an issue. I don't know. But he's just acting. He's acting like I don't know, like I wouldn't say a 2 year old. That's probably too young, but acting like 6 year old, an 8 year old maybe. Not even. I wouldn't even give it an 8 year old. It's like a 6 year old having a temper tantrum. And, and it was like, okay. So these guys, I'm like, okay, this is really interesting. These guys were on a live stream last, and I ended up deleting it because the live stream wasn't as important. This one I won't delete. And they went into my chat and quote unquote attacking, and they bragged about attacking my YouTube. They're calling me a bald old man and all this other stuff, and they called me a boomer. That was really funny. I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, boomer. I mean, wow, that's most. There's not a lot of boomers around these days. Just give you a hint about it. It's short for baby boomer. But anyways, maybe they don't even know what baby boomers are. I don't school. Obviously, I mean, they're wanting attention, so I'm actually giving them more attention, which I shouldn't be, but whatever. So it's just I yeah, I was watching. I'm thinking to myself, you got to be kidding. And I think they produced like 5 videos. I think this is the second video I've actually mentioned it. And I guarantee you, they'll see this and they'll post a bunch of other videos for them and their. One guy's got 100 subscribers. Actually, the one that sounds that the one kid that you can't even hardly understand the one that sounds like a 6 year old. He actually sounds like he sounds like a 6 year old, but he's got like 100 subscribers, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, that's impressive. Yeah, it's not. I think they're getting dumber and dumber, but they're getting dumbed down. Bryson, at least that's what I'm thinking, and you see it. It starts in the schools, and I think it starts in a few different places. I think it starts in the schools, but it also starts at home. And I've fortunately had enough time where, people get busy. People, sometimes they have too many kids. Sometimes they have kids when they really shouldn't have kids. But I think good parenting helps. My son's been lucky enough to have a mom home all the time. She's home all the time, anyways, and he's also lucky enough now. It's kind of a weird situation because my ex-wife is my landlord, so I live in the basement. I rent, and that's basically where I'm at. And I'm fortunate enough to be here. I moved in here about a year and a half ago, and there's nothing happening. I mean, it's all, I get along with him, with his mom and everything like that. Everything's cool. We have our ends, but other than that, it's not a big deal. So, but we do it. We basically did that for the love of our son. we thought nothing else is happening. We don't have any other plans right now, and our son has always been the most important thing, so that's what we went with. And he gets plenty of attention. So I think that's important because if you spend a lot of time with your children, and not everybody can afford to do that. There's a lot of people that two people working at jobs, daycare, you name it. Um, it's tough, and the school system doesn't help because they just I don't know what they do. They teach a lot of crap. They taught a lot of crap back when I was hell when we were at college. They taught a lot of crap. My friend Mike probably would remember that. I remember some of the crap we learned in college. I was like, I just want to get to the coding. This is crap. Why am I learning about, I don't know, it was business, English, all this other crap? And I'm just like, I just want to get back into the programming. Mind you, actually, he was in a different course than me now that I think about it. I'm pretty sure was he? No, he wasn't. I can't remember. I thought he was in the same course as me. There was a programming. There was information systems. I was talking about failing. I forgot to mention it. The one time I failed was the last year of. That was the one time. So I didn't graduate with him and others of my class. We end up failing the last project at the end of the year, and it costing me graduating that year. I was like, for all the times in my life that I failed, that was the one time. I was like, basically, it takes a year out of your life, but yeah, it is what it was. Welcome to be an adult. I'm too selfish to have kids. No, and you know something, and it's okay to be selfish and not have kids. There's a theory out there that there's a theory out there, and I've heard this brought up by a lot of people that you should have a lot of kids and you should have actually Tucker Carlson was one that brought it up. I heard the other day. You should have more kids than what you would want because blah blah blah. Or so I forget the quote. I thought to myself, why would you want to have more kids than you can handle? Because that somehow will bring the strength in you or something. I'm like, okay. It's like, no. Times are tough enough as it is. I want my son to, number one, have my attention, and I want him to benefit from everything that I have or that my ex has. Period. My ex wanted more kids. I didn't. I won. So there's a huge delay in chat, so sorry. No, 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 that's okay. You can stay relevant. There's a huge delay. I think yeah, some of these live streams are a little goofy to say the least, but yeah. What was I saying? I don't know what I was saying. I lost my train of thought. That's okay. But no, it's one of those things where um, yeah, I think it's all deliberate. I mean, the one thing I don't do is I don't watch much TV. I watch very little of it. I do not watch mainstream media news as much as I can help it. Occasionally, I'll be distracted by something, but usually I avoid it. Um, I certainly do a lot of research, although I don't spend too much on it. I don't spend too much dwelling on different things like going down too many wormholes as far as so-called fact check and when I talk about fact check, I'm not talking about the fact checkers. I'm talking about going in and trying to research the information and read the reports and read not just the headlines, but to actually go in deep and get into the data and the hypothesis and all the other stuff that goes with proving why something may be a certain way and contrary to the status quo opinion. But yeah, it's crazy. But anyways, yeah, these These kids were something else. They were all over the place. I guarantee you they'll make more videos, but I really don't care at this point. I started blocking their chats yesterday and blocking them from the channel. They'll create a bunch of more accounts. They'll probably be back. And they literally bragged about crashing my live stream is what they called it. I'm like, you don't even know what the word crash means. You're crashing a party, okay, but whatever. Uh I don't even have cable. I get all my entertainment from the web. I used to do that. And believe it or not, I didn't have cable either. I the only I got rid of cable. I had it I didn't have it for a few years and I did everything off the web, and then once I moved back into here, that's when oh I say when I moved back into here. This is where I used to live when I was married. In fact, we lived in the basement, my ex and I. So it's really complicated. Her mom passed away a couple years ago, and that's basically where I offered to rent out the apartment to help her out with my son. So that's why I'm back. It's kind of surreal when I move back in here. Just like wow, this is this brings back some memories. Yeah, so this is my apartment now. So it's a little strange, but yeah, I do the research on the web and the multitask. Yeah, you can do all kinds of multitasking. I'll listen to different podcasts and information out there. That's the beautiful thing. What's scary is going on, and that's something that I think is going to be ultimately combated because um, I still think that government and the think tanks that try to control thought, the thought police, that's the other thing that was in 1984. Now that I think of it, that's something that you see all there. You have cancel culture and all kinds of other things going on. All these things are based on it. If you haven't seen the movie 1984, I suggest you see it. I've seen the older version. I wouldn't mind seeing the newest version. It's real when you look at that movie 1984 and you compare it to what's going on right now, and it's you give away a little. Just all they do is take away your freedoms a little at a time. You wear a mask, then you get the vaccine, and well, the vaccine doesn't really cure you because you still have to wear the mask, and it's just like, okay, well, wait, why am I doing this for again? And when is life supposed to return back to normal? Um, it's crazy to to think about it, but and I felt this back in 9/11. I felt that life was never quite like it was, and that was the sense I got when this whole thing came on. I was thinking 9/11. This felt like 9/11. It was the one thing in my lifetime that I could relate to that had changed everything. But but it is really coming true, absolutely. And I don't know. It's going to be, put it this way, mark my words, the next between now and probably I would say probably the rest of the winter, it's going to get interesting, I think. But normal subjective doesn't exist because everyone has a different definition of it. Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of things are subjective. A lot of people have different ways of thinking, um, different belief systems, different upbringings, religion, you name it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I would say coming, so that's in response to getting back to normal, I guess. Getting back to the way it once was, I suppose. Um, they often call this the new normal. I've heard it been referred to as the new abnormal, but Anyways, I'm gonna wind things down. It's getting about time. I'm gonna try to get a flight in tomorrow morning, possibly. Well, we'll see. Not a big deal if I get it in or not. But yeah, we're just shy of the 1 hour mark, so I think I'll call it for tonight. So hope you enjoyed that, and always like, subscribe, leave some comments. I'll have some more videos. I'll try to get some more videos up. If I hadn't had morning flights lately, I'd be videos up lately. They're coming, so sooner or later they'll get up there, and you know, probably take a weekend where I'm not falling asleep on the couch. But anyways,